Welcome to Hotchi Motchi. This is our first episode of our podcast. We want to be able to introduce ourselves to you guys so you understand what we're trying to bring for you guys to be able to take a look at. We got Gino to my right. I'm Steve. We got Chris to the left. We're going to hope to bring some entertaining perspectives on what's going on currently in the game. Obviously, as being boomers, we're going to be bringing what we thought was good in the game before as well. So everything in the game is going to try to have a positive outlook on what's changing, new things that are coming down the pipeline. So that way you guys can, really settle in and, hear some positive things that are happening with the hobby that you guys love and that we love. So what I'd like to do is start to introduce the team that we got here. I'll start to the left with Chris. Chris, if you just want to kind of let us know, what got you into Magic? When did you start? How'd you meet us personally?
Yeah, I started playing, oh my God, I don't even know what year it was. I'm that bad. Fifth grade. And I'm old now, so that was a long time ago. Ice Age had just come out. It was really cool. I cracked a pack with a Wittigo, I believe, was in there. I was real stoked on that one, and I believe a Gaia's Liege. I think that was hot pull. So I've been playing since then, off and on. Took a break, came back at the second Ravnica. I took a break. Oh man. Probably right when they switched borders and they went to like Future Sight and Planar Chaos is when I jumped back out and then came in at the second Ravnica, like Gate Crash and Dragon's Maze. And I think it's been ruining my life ever since then. Yeah, just way too much. Try to brew a new commander deck every week. But it's a lot of fun. It's a board game that the board keeps changing, keeps moving around. You got to stay on your toes. Find janky, stupid cards that you like to make a deck out of. That's what really brings me to this game, is finding one card or one artwork or one stupid interaction or trying to make a deck out of a commander out of a card that should not be a commander. And
Absolutely.
That's what I love, and that's what I try to bring to this game and what I'm going to try to bring to you guys.
Awesome. So I think that's all great things that you're going to be able to bring to the conversation. Gino, what about you?
Yeah, I started playing in 1994. The first set that came out after I started playing was Fallen Empires. And I've been playing kind of off and on ever since. I've taken a couple long breaks. But yeah, I've been back full time since like 2020. And pretty much only play Commander. I play with Standard a little bit on Arena, but I'm pretty much just a Commander player.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I started in the Zendikar block. Originally, back when in the early 90s, I remember playing Magic, but Pogs, were obviously way cooler, so I had to get like the biggest slammer. And so I exited until Zendikar, but then it was more tabletop, right? That it was more casual, so I would really come from a casual setting while playing Magic. I exited probably not too long after that. I was only really in for one block, and then came back in around the original Exelon block. Is really when I came in. I was had very fortunate to have two really close friends that own an LGS, and so we were playing different board games and stuff there, and they're like, hey, you should really pick Magic back up, and I think they wanted just more revenue because it obviously increased. Then after that point, I really just dove like, $30,000 in is really what ended up happening. That I'm like Chris, that I pretty much brew one deck a week, look to, go off of one card. I'm a big theme guy. I really love the artist take on everything, so I have multiple decks that are themed around artwork and stuff like that. So
and lore, sometimes lore.
Yeah, I'm a huge lore guy, so I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the Universes Beyond with all of the Magic IP. I'm sure there'll still be some things that are surrounding it, so that'll be great. And I play Arena with Standard, but it's really one of one, so I wouldn't really call it competitive. I'm not going to any RCQs or grinding for full weekend. So it's pretty much Commander is where I nestle in. So
are you currently brewing up Frodo with the Buster Sword
and
a Spider-Man partner?
I'm not. So
that needs to be a thing, I think.
So I think it'll be an interesting take, like with the point that you bring up of Universes Beyond, of taking what we would think is a non-traditional IP of Magic, right? Spider-Man obviously being the one that's coming out. And how does that relate to like, Spider Tribal, and like, where does it fit in? And I know Gino and I were talking last week about it, and it would be cool if for some reason, Gino, why don't you explain it a little bit better? of the interaction of the multiverses happening.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool if they kind of tied it all together by showing that there's a multiverse and how like you could do the Spider-Man set with all the different Spider-Man, kind of like the different versions, kind of like the TV show or the movie that was on Netflix.
Right.
And they could show that since there is a multiverse, there is a world that would have Lord of the Rings in it or 40K or all these other IPs, because it would make sense because it is a multiverse.
Right.
So it's kind of a way to kind of make all the different ones kind of tie together, because Spider-Man could be that glue, that conduit that kind of makes all the other IPs kind of make sense.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, you can kind of see like where we sit in the pocket of, really trying to look in, as things evolve, right? Because obviously we've been in the game since the early 90s, and a lot of things have changed since then to where we're able to still move forward in a way that, is positive about what we're doing while we're still playing within that hobby. So I'd like to give you guys a little taste of like how we ended up meeting, because it is pretty different on how all three of us kind of come together. I joke with Chris and Gino that we all are Kevin Bacon to each other, because we're like two people separated from each other for the past 40, 45 years. So Chris, if you kind of want to tell us how you met Gino, how you met me, and that way they get a feeling of what we're doing.
Yeah, I grew up in high school playing in terrible punk bands and bounced around and played shows and lived in like a punk house kind of that was a band that Gino was in as the bass player. And I had multiple interactions with him through other shows and venues. So we've known each other for a crazy long time.
I mean, at this point, it's got to be at least 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least 25 years.
Super long time of playing music. And I don't think really ever in that time at all did we ever acknowledge or talk that we played Magic. I think it was,
I think back then there was still some Magic shame.
I was going to say that.
You didn't like openly talk about or wear a Magic shirt. It was kind of there was some shame to it. So like back then we didn't like tell people I play Magic. So it's funny that we knew each other
remember,
all
like,
these years.
my wife told a friend of hers that I played, and I was like, shh, that's not like that.
Yeah,
that's not a thing. So like we've known each other and never knew that about, that we both played or had this long history. And I think it was a mutual friend of ours was like, oh, I was hanging out with Gino and he was talking about Magic the Gathering. And I was like, yes, another nerd and to share my shame with.
So 22 years later, it all comes full circle that we both play Magic and now we hang out constantly. So
and we started playing. I would go to his house and we'd be playing. And then Gino was like, I go to one different LGS that's closer to me. And there's this guy, Steve, and he's really cool. And he has games at his place sometimes, so you should roll through. And that's how I met Steve, was through Gino.
Yeah, it was pretty cool when I first started playing with you, because it was the decks that you play are the thought process that goes into them is much more than what's the top 150 cards, and then kind of go down from there. That it's like these really unique cards just from having a collection that goes over so many years. That with us that have been playing as long as we have, it's very infrequent that we see a card and we're like, can I see that for a second?
absolutely,
I need to read it.
right.
And so it's one of the things I really enjoy about playing with you, Chris, and when I met you, is that the cards that are within your deck make me stop and look, right? Versus when I'm playing at normal LGSs, we kind of all run into the decks that are just net decked, and we're kind of seeing the same things that are happening, which are still enjoyable, right? So I still like playing those games, but it's nice to see something come out of like Gate Crash and be like, what is this thing?
I'm in the old like journeyman of my Magic career, is that like I just want a game. I play a weekly game, and we play from maybe 5:30 till 11 at night, and we get like 2 games in.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they're just long, winding stories. We're not playing tutors and trying to get to this. Like that's just kind of the vibe that I like to run. And 100%, I go on Spell Table and I'm like, look at this janky card from Invasion, and people are like, sweet, you're dead. And I'm like, cool, but I got to play Whip Silk, so look out. But yeah, I mean, that's just, it's, I think our playstyles have been really fun, whereas, when I watch you build a deck and it's like, oh man, like I see what's coming and I see this interaction and I see this build up and then the payoff's there and it's like, you've got to handle it or you're in trouble. But it's not this crazy, like I'm going to tutor this out, I'm going to get to this, and it's not going to happen right away. I think you're a little bit more direct in your build to get to the cool thing. And it's really neat to see that there's still that payoff of having the good synergistic deck, the theme deck, but it's not like turn 1 vamp tutor, turn 2 get exactly the piece I need. It's going to do this and it's going to do this, game in, game out. I don't really love that, and I'm hoping that this kind of channel is kind of going to bring that point of view, is that
Yeah.
there's every card is playable, and every card
Absolutely
can be a part of what the story you want to tell. And if it's fun to you, like, cool, you did it. I just built the Bilbo birthday celebrant where it's like you had 113 life, and I was like, I got that, and so I won the game.
Right.
I mean, I lost the game, but I got to do the thing.
Right.
You got to keep the game fun for yourself, right? And play these different cards.
Yeah.
I think
and I think that's kind
fun.
of what
Yeah.
Gino and Steve and my deck building is a little different, but it's kind of similar in that way that it's just more about having fun and kind of enjoying the actual gathering part of this game instead of just sitting down
Yeah.
and just
Yeah,
being
100%.
like, this is what's going to
Agreed.
happen, and if it doesn't do this, turn in, turn out, something's wrong, and I got to tune it up. Like.
Right.
That's just not what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's not what you're here to check out, because it's not there.
Right.
It's the spirit of casual gameplay, right? It's just to have fun with your friends and just however you need to do it. And through deck building, playing odd cards or cards that people call janky, I think that's a great way to do it. To keep it fresh for yourself.
Yeah, it's nice to be at a point to where Commander or EDH and then Commander as a whole is like really gotten to a point to where the arms race is kind of over.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. That obviously is us growing up. There was only really competitive. Right, that 1v1 aspect of it, but now that Commander's really taken a hold over the past 8-10 years, that story that you get to tell with the decks and your friends that you're playing with really come to development. Everyone plays spiky, right? To start with, you just get stomped everywhere, right? And so you're like, I'm going to build the sickest thing and the most degenerate thing I can put on the table, and then you quickly learn socially that that's not what command like. You can have fun in that realm, right? As long as everybody's there with you. But I think it really speaks to who we are, especially the three of us. I think it's why the three of us got along so well when we started playing, is that it has more to do with Chris getting off the 100, creatures coming out, and he's won the game.
Yeah, right.
Right, and so that way we each are able to get to that point. Now, does it happen every game? Obviously not, right? Like, some decks will take off, and I'm the first one to tell you should kill me, or like when I turn a card over, it's like, yeah, you should definitely kill me right now, right? So that way the table understands. There's no.
You're one of the most fair players I've ever played with.
Yeah. I like all of the information to be table talk, right? The more table talk.
Yeah, like, is it really a fun win if you have this combo that like only you know about and you like secretly keep it, and then you're like, I'd rather be like, look, like, you've got 2 turns and y'all need to figure out a way to do it and stop it, or else it's gonna happen. And there's just more enjoyable to that. But I think it's really funny is what you were saying about everyone being spiky, because I remember we played a game at my LGS, and someone dropped a Blood Moon and a Winter Orb, and I was like, remember? Ron and I used to do that.
To be young again.
Man, it's so, it's cool to go on that adventure, and there's nothing wrong with it. And that's what I love about Commander, is that there's, we'll talk about it later in a future episode, but there's levels for the old winding story, and there's levels for this is a real 7 or 8, and there's levels for CDH, and there's a spot that you can fit in, and that's what makes this game so great. And it's just more about weeding out the like, oh, this is totally a 6 or a 7, and it's like a CDH deck. If to you, if that's fun, like that, I guess that's your thing, and knock your socks off. But it's just a really cool game and a really cool adventure that we're going to talk about and go on with you guys. That there's spots for everyone, and I think we'll try to hit on a little bit of everything. But it's just it's a fun game, and we're gonna sit here and talk about it a whole bunch.
Yeah. So Gino, can you tell us about like how? Because I don't really know yours and Chris's story, like from your perspective. I know when we first met.
Kept that intelligently from you.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, right? The more information I know, the worse off you are, right? I've infiltrated this far, right? So I
You'll be in too deep. You'll be stuck.
Right. Would you want to hear? Yeah, kind of tell us about like, or at least let them know, how you came into, talks with us and how that journey has been, and and like your feeling on
It was great.
relationship.
Absolutely. So like in 2020, I moved in with my 2 cousins, Mike and Matt Panducci, and we would just kind of play at the house, Skyboy. Yeah, we would just play at the house casually. Like Chris said, he would come over and we'd play games at the house. Then I really started to want to play more often. So we started playing at LGS's, and that's where I met you, is at Affinity for Gaming in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and met a whole different group of guys, a whole new play group, and it was awesome. And then, like we said, we reconnected with Chris, started going to his LGS out in Roselle, Grogner Games. and met a whole different audience there as well, right? A whole different play group. It was kind of cool to see all the different styles between the two LGSs and all these new like decks and janky stuff and competitive play. I don't know where I'm going with it.
I really like where you went with the inclusion portion, just because of how many different people play the game and how many different facets of people play the game. And, you know, I learned this quite often from my days with Cardboard Dynamo. So shout out to Alex Chang for board game design, that I would go to Gen Cons and things like that. And we talked extensively about, we all played Magic as well, right, in the background, but we talked extensively about the types of people that we are dealing with, right, in interactions, right, of more often than not, you're dealing with somebody that's very introverted, right, that it's like, how do you have that conversation without seeming, you know, too overtly on top of them, right? So it's been cool to,
It's a friendly nudge. Sometimes let's get them to grow over and be able to join the group, you know?
yeah. And I think something that you two do really well, right, that you guys just have such an inviting personality about yourselves that it's like,
Well, he as well, honestly.
come in and sit down and you know, kind of sit in and play with us here. So I would say to everyone that's listening, you know, whenever you see somebody that's just like kind of hanging out by themselves, just ask if they want to jump in, even if you got to sit out a game, right? And so, because it's probably somebody that was like me when I first walked into the LGS. I was cutting foam for my miniatures, seeing if anybody else played the game, right?
Oh, really?
So yeah. So I like that you brought up the shame of being a nerd, right? And I really love that, you know, this kind of space is, you know, really eliminated for us, right? That, you know, obviously we're at the age to where we're all professionals. We all have, you know, lives that are outside of playing the hobby, but it's also not a, you know, a stigma to be like, yeah, I'm a total nerd.
Yeah, it's kind of worked into the mainstream, which is awesome.
Right, right. So it's been awesome to be able to see all of that. Now when we, you know, like when Gino comes back in town for the podcast, that, you know, everyone at the LGS is kind of like, oh my God, Gino's back. You know, and the same thing for Chris when he shows up, that we're all, you know, just kind of, we're known for, you know, bring your spike down a little bit. Unless you want to play that way, just let us know that it's going to be a spike game and we'll be fine. So
it's a collusion and just like having fun, bringing people together, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So in closing, you know, we really just want to kind of give you guys where to leave off and what you can expect from us moving forward. So as the hobby that we play, we want to keep everything in a positive space, even though when negative things are happening, right, in the game, or some people will feel that it's negative happening to them, we can, you know, appreciate where your feelings are in it. However, it's a hobby we're going to continue to play.
Total.
Right. So we get to choose at that point of like how we're going to be able to move forward with that decision, and you know how those things are going to be affected. So you'll be able to hear a lot from our end when things are changing in the game, is what I like to call it, not negative. That's just a change that's happened. That
Just reorganized.
right, yeah, right, yeah, get it reorganized in my house, right? Yeah, when we don't know where things are in our house, we asked our others, and they're like, yeah, I organized. Yeah, it's like, okay, thank you, right? Because it's probably better the way that it is now than what it was before. So that way we're just not going to end up in any kind of toxic situation, and you know, it's not really who we are to move forward. So
This is a hobby that we kind of spend a lot of money and time on. I want to be positive about it, right? You know, I just want it to be something we enjoy, and we talk about the good side of it, you know?
right, absolutely.
Yeah, I just want it to be like, no card is unplayable. No deck is unplayable. Like, if you are building a deck because you want to win every game, like, that's just a different thing. But like,
There's a space for that, right? That's why it's IDH, right? Absolutely.
we just want you to be excited. And I'm not, you know, it's not any negativity, but I've seen a lot of shows where it's like, oh, that card, you know, there's 4 other cards in that slot that are better than that. And that's super maybe true and 100%. But let's talk about what you can do with that card and what paths that can open up, and get excited about it. Like, I just remember there's been times where it's like, I want to do this. And people are like, you know, that's crummy and that's not a good deck. And it's just like, oh, trust me, I know it's going to be bad. Right?
It depends though, right? Are you trying to make the most optimal like deck, or are you trying to make the deck that you want to build?
Or are you trying to make a deck that the word old is in every card? Like Corval and Kobolds, Shieldren, and Strongholds. That's that figures. That is the next, and we're here for it.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. It's a great start to the podcast.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, I feel great about it.
I'm going back to California.
That's what you got.
So yeah, guys.